The only black historical figures I was taught about in school was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman. In school, we were never taught about Shirley Chisholm, the first black woman to run for president in the Democratic Party and was the first black woman to be elected to U.S. Congress. Why weren't we educated about this? And are people even aware that a black woman ran for president? Shirley Chisholm was born November 30th, 1924 in New York City. She had two younger sisters named Muriel and Odessa. Her parents were hard workers from the Caribbean region. Her mother, Ruby Saley, arrived in New York in 1921, and her father, Charles Christopher, arrived in 1923. In 1929, when Shirley was 5, her parents sent her and her sisters to live outside the U.S. with their grandmother, Emmeline Saley, due to the Great Depression. She lived on a farm and attended a one-room schoolhouse that was very strict on education. After her life outside the U.S., she returned 5 years later in 1934. In 1939, Shirley attended an all-girls high school in Brooklyn. For college, she attended Brooklyn College and gained her Bachelor's of Arts degree in 1946. Shirley was rewarded and won prizes for debating skills throughout college and was a member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. In 1952, she earned her M.A. in Early Childhood Education from Columbia University. Shirley started her career as a director of the Friends Day Nursery in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and the Hamilton Medicine Child Care Center from 1953 to 1959. She then moved on to become an educational consultant for the Division of Daycare. She became known as an authority on issues involving early education and child welfare. Working in daycare centers and working with children allowed her to form interest in politics. She worked as a volunteer for white-dominated political clubs in Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant Political League, and the League of Women Voters. Shirley started as a Democratic member of the New York State Assembly from 1965 to 1968. She was 175th, 176th, and 177th for the New York State Legislative. One of the most important arguments she made was against the state's literacy test, which required good English skills and you need this test to vote. Shirley claimed that a person who functions better in their native language is no sign of someone who is illiterate. Also in that time, Shirley successfully achieved getting unemployment benefits extended to domestic workers. In August 1968, she was elected as the Democratic National Committee woman from New York State. She ran for Congress in 1968, facing off with James Farmer. Her slogan, unbossed and unbought, and her fluent Spanish was able to hand her an upset victory over James, and she became the first black woman elected to Congress. In 1982, she announced her retirement from Congress to move on to other things. Campaign in 1972. She called for a bloodless revolution, and that made her become the first black major party candidate to run for the President of the United States. It also made her the first woman to run in the Democratic Party. She described herself as a representative of the people. Shirley Chisholm stated that, quote, "I am not the candidate of Black America, although I am black and proud. I am not the candidate of the women's movement of this country, although I am a woman and equally proud of that. I am the candidate of the people, and my presence before you symbolizes a new era in American political history," end quote. Her campaign failed due to underfunding, only spending about a total of $300,000. On top of that, there were sexist and racist threats towards her. She claimed that the difference between her running for Congress and her running for president was that the sexism is worse than the racism itself. Although these failures occurred, she won 3 states, being New Jersey, Louisiana, and Mississippi. After her retirement from Congress, she returned to her education career. Shirley didn't stick to any particular subject, so she taught classes in a variety. She also continued to give speeches at more than 150 college campuses. She told students that, quote, "If you don't accept others who are different, it means nothing that you've learned calculus," end quote. In 1984 to 1988, she helped campaign for Jesse Jackson. In 1990, she helped form the group African American Women for Reproductive Freedom. Shirley finally retired in 1991 in Florida. In 1993, President Bill Clinton nominated her to be the United States ambassador to Jamaica. But she couldn't serve due to health reasons and the nomination was withdrawn. The same year, she was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. Shirley passed away January 1st, 2005 due to several strokes. She was buried in Oakwood Mausoleum in Buffalo where her vault read, "Unbossed and unbought." And what does this mean for us? Shirley brought out deep issues in the country from a political point of view. She got extremely far considering how sexist and racist the system was. She showed that even in tough circumstances, nothing is impossible and that we can keep trying.